So am I. All right, you ready to rock?
Let's do it, man.
All right, welcome everyone. This is my first podcast style interview, and here we have Nick Huber, founder of the Sweaty Startup Podcast, and Storage Squad, student moving in storage and self-storage. So welcome to the show, Nick, and thanks for being on the first podcast episode.
Thanks for having me, man. You know what? You were my first interview on the Sweaty Startup, so it's only right that I'm your first as well.
Look at that. It came full circle. So it might be the start of a beautiful thing. So if we can get into a little bit about your background so everyone can know a little bit more about you and what you're up to.
Absolutely, man. So when I was a junior in college in 2011, my partner and I started a pickup and delivery student storage service. So basically when the students go home for the summer, we would show up at their dorms before they left. We would pick up all their stuff in boxes. We'd load it up in trucks, and then we would take it to our warehouse, store it over the summer, and then wherever they moved the next year to a different dorm, different apartment, same one, we would basically take it wherever they were. So that's the extent of our business. And we started in upstate New York at two schools, grew to University of Illinois, Iowa. Then we made our way to Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. And over about a 6-year period, we grew to what now is a business that we service like almost 10,000 customers a year. We're on pace across all of our businesses to do almost $3 million a year in sales this year. And it's great. Yeah, we operate in 9 states and I think about 25 major colleges now. And more recently, I have kind of got into self-storage, development, management, acquisitions. Actually, just last week, my partner and I went up to Western Pennsylvania, and we closed on 4 storage properties up there that is the standard old self-storage garage door rentals, basically. So I do a little bit of everything, but that's the 2-minute version of my career.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Nick is doing some huge things and basically is where I want to be in like 5 years. So he's someone that I get a lot of advice from and get a lot of value from. So he's going to be able to provide us a ton of great information and insight here. And so a huge focus for Nick is service-based business, local service, sweaty startup-based businesses. And I wanted to hear directly from you why you think there's a huge opportunity there right now for entrepreneurs of potentially all ages.
Yeah, so about a year ago, actually, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. My brother started a lawn care company in central Indiana, and I was mentoring him on kind of how to start the business, how to get ahead, how to do some of the things that his competitors weren't doing. And, I just kind of had the urge to share. And I started a podcast, a website, and a forum around what I call Sweaty Startups. And that's the name of the brand. And a Sweaty Startup is a service-based business that is basically nothing new, nothing special, nothing fancy, and something that most entrepreneurs may not even look at as an opportunity that are already out there operating. You know what I mean? Like the local service businesses, the home service businesses, the moving companies, the storage companies. And I feel so passionately about this space, and I feel like it's such an opportunity. It's because that's kind of where I got my start. As you know, when I tell people that I started a pickup and delivery student storage service with a partner, they always kind of like, oh, well, that's awesome idea. I can't believe that you were the first person to think of that. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There were probably 30 companies operating, doing exactly what I was doing. And then I looked around me at the wealthiest people that I know and the people who are successful entrepreneurs, and yourself running a multi-million-dollar moving company. The people that I'm meeting now is kind of put into overdrive through the podcast. But so many successful entrepreneurs got their start and still operate in businesses that are not new ideas, that are sweaty, that nobody wants to do. And that's kind of what I'm so passionate about spreading is this message that there's a ton of opportunities in these spaces.
Right. And so would you say that right now there's just a ton of opportunity in the unsexy kind of businesses because no one's focusing their attention on it? No one on Instagram is talking about how they're starting a trash company. Everyone's starting some Amazon FBA or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you go out on the street and you ask random people, or you go into a college entrepreneurship class and you ask them, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about entrepreneurship? And they think, new product inventions. They think infomercials. They think tech startups like Facebook. They think about Shark Tank, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, all these people that have kind of changed the world, Elon Musk, Tesla. And so that is the way that the media and basically all of our culture in America kind of paints entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And when they think of entrepreneurs, they think, okay, I gotta think of something crazy to do to become an entrepreneur. Oh shit! You know, you gotta think of a crazy new idea to become an entrepreneur, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. I think, you know, all the most brilliant people who otherwise would be excellent business owners kind of look at entrepreneurship, and when you look at it that way, it's really intimidating, right? I got to think of a new idea. I got to start a new business. I got to compete with venture capital. I got to change the world. I got to do something different. And all that is really, really hard to do and really, really intimidating. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, I agree. And even when you look at like the Facebooks or the Instagrams, a lot of times they are, 10% better than someone who came before them, and they're just the ones that took off. I think I read one time that's like usually the third person who does an idea is the company that blows up. And none of those guys were the first ones to think of like a social media, things like that either. So yeah, a lot of the times revolutionary isn't so revolutionary.
Absolutely. I think it's all about starting really small, starting really local, and just taking opportunities as they come.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at people who are massively wealthy, who are super successful entrepreneurs, ask them what they were doing when they were 18, 19 years old, and none of them were chasing a brand new idea, trying to raise venture capital funds. They were probably in their neighborhoods, finding a way to scrounge to make money. I mean, Max, what were you doing when you were 16, 17 years old
Yeah.
in business?
Yeah, I was doing world's smallest landscaping company, just me, and I was a janitor on the side. So yeah, I was just scrappy, saving every dollar I could, and yeah, wasn't trying to change the world. I was trying to change my bank account.
Exactly right, and that's my story as well. Like I was 15 years old. Actually, I was 13 years old, and my dad kind of signed me up for some commercial lawn care in town for a company that he worked for. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. I didn't want to be doing it. It was really hard work, but I learned so much. And more importantly, I just learned how businesses worked. And it kind of made me walk around life looking at things a little bit differently. Every store that I walked into, every restaurant that I walked into, every business that I interacted with, I would just kind of think about how they worked. And I would think about how they made money. I would think about how much their rent was. I would think about how much they paid their employees. And I would just start to think about that stuff. And I think people who don't have those early experiences with running a really small business kind of gloss over that stuff and walk around without necessarily looking at it. And when you walk around the world that way, and when you walk around life that way of looking at things and kind of analyzing businesses, you really quickly see little opportunities where, okay, I can go into this, and if I only, how many times, Max, do you walk around town in a day and say, man, if I owned this business, I think I could crush it, right? Or if I was competing with this business, or if I was in this space, I think I would dominate. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Right. Opportunities are everywhere. And I'm sure you see it every single day. I mean, I think you were telling me you were trying to get your house painted the other day, and it was miserable, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, hiring a service is a nightmare. I mean, the office that I'm in right now, I had to have it built out when I got this space. I called 12 different contractors. None of them answered. 2 of them returned my call. One of the people who returned my call wanted like $47,000 to put up like 6 partition walls and put in carpet, which would have been, should have been like an $8,000 job. And I ended up hiring someone who was a referral from someone I knew, someone who didn't have a website or any way to find them. So that's a perfect, example right there of the need for this kind of stuff right now.
Yeah, everybody wants to sit behind their computer and make money the easy way. Everybody wants to do that. And I've always been the type of guy, when everybody agrees that something is the best way, or everybody's excited about one thing, I always kind of second guess that and think twice and be like, okay, what am I missing here? What am I missing here? And right now, over the last 10 years, you see everybody flocking online to start businesses. You see everybody trying to do Amazon drop shipping. You see hundreds of thousands of people signing up for Tai Lopez's course on how to do these things. And my mind, the logical being it is, just says, okay, something might be a little bit off here. And then I bought a house, and I tried to do the same thing that you were doing with your thing. And I wanted to, with your office build out, and I wanted to have somebody come and mow my lawn. I wanted to have somebody come and shampoo my carpets before I moved in. And now I'm trying to build out a basement. And what I'm seeing out there is just all of these service-based providers, all of them, they have more work than they could handle. They're booked out 2 or 3 weeks, and they don't answer the phone. They're not organized, and they don't have to be to make really, really good money. All of them show up in brand new, shiny $75,000 Ford F-150 trucks, and none of them answer the phone. So in my opinion, I look at those 2 things, and something tells me that that's an opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I've said that before. Like in me talking about our company, we can't be the best moving company, in a metro area. We shouldn't be in business at all doing anything. So yeah, that's definitely true. So with the student storage business, was there a specific reason why you chose that business? Like you said, you're constantly analyzing businesses. Was it like, oh, there's a huge hole here that needs to be filled?
Yeah, I had a lawn care company in high school. In early college, I had a track and field blog training website where the concept was to link trainers to runners. I pitched a big website that one of my college track coaches had called letsrun.com, which is huge in the running community. I went in his office and pitched him to try to let me launch a clothing brand.
Mhm.
I mean, the amount of businesses that I tried to start and I got out there and got after is unbelievable. I was always just fiddling and trying little things, and I would get excited about it and I would get after it. And that's what happened. And one day I listed my apartment on Craigslist, and nobody was going to lease it over the summer because in college you had to have a 12-month lease. So we were stuck with these apartments over the summer when we weren't going to be in college town. So I tried to get somebody else to come in and sublet it, but everybody was leaving town and nobody was going to do that. So eventually somebody called me and said, "Hey, Nick, I don't really want to rent your apartment, but I want to store my son's belongings in it." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." And most people would have been like, "No way, I'm going to go back to doing whatever I was doing at the time." And I was like, you know what? I might as well see what comes of this. And I ended up driving my car and working for about 2 hours, sweating really hard. And I made about 150 bucks in 2 hours and put it all in my apartment. And I realized I had space for maybe 6 or 10 more people just like that to put in my apartment. So I made little flyers up and I emailed all my friends and I showed up at the fraternities and sororities and gave little pitches about how, Nick's storage service, I think we were called University Storage for the first day, is going to come and pick up all your stuff. And before I knew it, I had way more business than I could ever hope for. And I was running around like crazy, about to miss final exams because I was picking up stuff. And yeah, I filled up my room. I filled up the room next to me. And then I went to now my business partner's house at the time, and he had a full basement, and he became my partner at that time. We filled up the entire basement, and like 4 or 5 days later, we were sitting with $3,000 to $5,000 cash on the bed in our apartments, and we'd already paid our lease for the summer. And we're like, okay, that was fun. Should we get after this a little bit? And the first thing we did was research competitors. And this is what I always talk about as the best way to figure out if you can carve out a little piece of the pie, is to get in and dive in and analyze the competitors and see what they're doing. So we called them. We acted like we were customers. We analyzed their websites. We found out how they did their billing, how they did their pickups, and we dove in, Max. And it was crazy how poorly it was all run. They were using clipboards. I think it's because this was right around the time when everybody got a cell phone, like a smartphone, like an iPhone, and they were all using clipboards and running around. So very first thing we did was make a little Google document and access it on our iPhones and be able to run around and update schedules live. So yeah, it's just small little changes that made the business a lot better. So when I talk about you don't need a new idea, I'm not necessarily saying that you don't need to improve upon what they're doing, but there's just so many little things that you can do to make it a better service for the customers and ultimately charge more money for what you're doing.
Right. That's an awesome story. That's so classic too. Like, you did a small thing, it worked, and you're like, hey, there might be something here. And then you try it out more and more, and you're like, okay, there's definitely something here, and you build it out. But like that's like such a classic story for, basic entrepreneurship 101, basically.
Yeah, we didn't have plans to change the world. I mean, our friends kind of laughed and they scoffed, and because this was at the time, it was maybe a $5 million market nationwide total. Like that's all the money that changed hands in this business at that time. 30 companies doing about 5 million, all really small businesses. And so I told my dad, I was like, my partner and I were really thinking about not going to get jobs. Like we're thinking about going to do this storage company. And then we got on Craigslist and bought a $1,500 van, and people were just looking at us like we were insane. They're like, are you guys crazy? What are you doing? You have Ivy League degrees. We went to Cornell, like Ivy League degrees. All your friends are going to New York City to get jobs for $100,000 a year. And you're going to buy a $1,500 beat up van on Craigslist and go around picking up people's stuff. And you fast forward 10 years. And I mean, I don't say this to brag, but just to kind of put it in perspective, I out-earn all my friends who are attorneys, and I could literally work 5 hours a week and do whatever I want the rest of the time. And I wake up every day and play with my kids, and I live in the city that I want to live in. Like I moved to Athens, Georgia, because this is where I want to be. And now I'm just doing what I like to do, which turns out it's more business. So
Right, more business but less pressure because you don't have to worry about the finances and that kind of thing. But yeah,
yeah, I'll say this, the stress doesn't ever go away because the bigger the deals, the more stressful they get. But we're having so much fun right now. I mean, we're calling and negotiating storage properties. We closed on over $1 million worth of storage last week, and we're probably going to buy another 5 million in the next 6 months. And this is the stuff that is really fun and exciting. And it never would have happened if I didn't suck it up and sweat for 3 or 4 years of my life.
Right. Exactly. And I think that was something that I want to talk about as well. So a lot of people, they want to get into investment properties or doing something big, but they don't have the money up front to do it. And I think that's doing a sweaty startup type business is a really easy in to start building up that cash flow, building up some money to then later do bigger things. And you're a perfect example of that. So if you want to talk a little bit about how that storage business allowed you to transition into what you're doing now and what will probably be your focal point for the next.
Yeah. And I think it all boils down to passion. I think people want to do something that they're passionate about. I think the world and parents and, books about self-help and teachers, they all say, like, find something that you're passionate about and do that as a career. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, you can't just instantly right out of college or wherever you are in life, just start doing exactly what you want to do all the time. Right. So it has to be a 10-year plan, and it's about momentum. Like, start really small in something that you're not necessarily passionate about, or like, say you want to get into real estate, say you really like flipping houses. Make that your 10-year goal. And how can you get to there? Well, if you just start trying to get into the housing game right now as a wholesaler and compete with all the people who are taking the bigger pockets courses, it's gonna be really, really, really hard to do that. But if you go start doing something like you're doing, Max, or like I did, and next thing you know, you're making $1, $2, $3, $400,000 a year, 5 years from now, it's gonna be really, really easy to do whatever you want to do and to do what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about changing the world and doing amazing things for the environment or helping people with sustainability, and I mean, all these things that are really, really hard to pay the bills, but once you have the financial freedom, you can make a really, really big difference. Like, Elon Musk didn't start doing electric cars and spaceships right away. Okay, he made a payment processor that was not sexy, not fun, and then sold it for and cleared $500 million or whatever it was, and then started doing what he wanted to do.
And before the payment processor, he made a kind of like an online yellow books that he sold for like $4 or $5 million. I think it was just a few $1 million. So there was just stepping stones. Yeah.
Everybody's sitting in college, or maybe they're sitting somewhere listening to this and thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to change the world. But they don't understand that you can't just go from where you are right now to changing the world. To change the world, you have to have a skill set. You have to have money. You have to have experience. There is no better place to start than doing a local service business. There's no better place to start. And I think the number one thing people say when they hear my spiel, when they hear this message, they always say, these businesses are not scalable and they're extremely low margin. Those are the two big arguments. Like, you're competing against the Craigslisters, the fly-by-nights, these people who are not valuing their time. And yes, if you run a business a certain way, then yes, you are competing with those people. Right. But if you do things better, if you answer the phone, if you can turn around jobs, if you actually come in with a business mind, 90% of the people out there running these local service businesses aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. They're just doing it because their dad did it, or they're doing it because they learned the trade, or they're doing it because they saw a small opportunity, and they're just running around like chickens with their head cut off with no organization. They never work on their business. They never make their business better. They never focus on hiring and training. So if you can do those things, if you can take a step back and work on your business and put systems in place and provide really good customer service, you can charge double what these guys are charging. I mean, you saw firsthand, the one person that answered your call and showed up to your office wanted to charge you $47,000 for the job. Right. And guess what? A lot of people pay him to do that. A lot of people pay it because he has an actual business with actual systems and he actually knows how to turn around stuff. So, I mean, I think that's what it's all about. I mean, you don't need to conquer the world here. We're talking about getting, 1 out of every 10 customers that call you. If you're charging double, it's okay. Losing all those customers is fine. You don't need to win every customer. Get the ones that are high margin, get the ones that you can build a scalable, successful business around.
Right. And I've been trying to really hammer that point, and I've been helping someone start a cleaning business, and she constantly wants to lower the prices to get more customers in the beginning. And I'm like, you don't even want to look at those people as customers, because she's like, well, I don't want people to be mad because I'm charging too much. Like, the people who are mad about that aren't even your customers. They're in a total different industry, Let the people with like illegal processes and illegal employees handle those customers, and your base is over here. They're harder to get, but they're the ones that are going to stay around.
And you know what? What's crazy, Max, is the customers that beat you up on price and the customers that want the lowest price are also the biggest pain in the butt when it comes to
Exactly.
complaints and customer service and not respecting you and disrespecting you and yelling at you and harassing you. I mean, it's crazy out there, the way some customers treat the businesses that they interact with. I think that there's a culture around this, and I am not promoting bad customer service. I'm not promoting that at all. But so many business owners out there kind of get harassed and beat up by customers because they allow it to happen, and it's so sad to see.
Yeah, because they're afraid of bad reviews. I've seen that, review blackmail is huge now, and people are just basically giving away everything to not get a bad review, handing over discounts, hand over fist, and then never really getting a return from it because they're not going to use it next time anyways. They're just going to go on Groupon and get the next cheapest guy. It's just like, yeah, we don't even offer discounts anymore for moving. So,
Yeah.
And nothing's changed. We don't get any fewer clients or anything like that.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about these local service businesses, I mean, you're talking about the ideal customer, right? You're talking about the customer that you want to grow a successful business. And the great thing about this is where they live and you can get in front of them. And
Right.
you know where their kids go to school, where they eat at restaurants. So marketing, you don't have to go online and spend $6 a click and hopefully, catch some people with your Facebook ads. You can do some guerrilla marketing and techniques that don't cost any money, that just cost your effort and can really work, because nobody wants to do that stuff either.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to walk into a business and shake their hand and introduce themselves and give them a card. I mean,
Right.
that's how I met you, Max, is your business about 500 interactions. And that's my favorite video on YouTube, and what I pass along. Basically, if you listen to any of my podcasts, I talk about that thing that you did to basically everybody that I mentor and everybody that I talk to. And to give you the 10-second overview, Max went around and found out who can refer me business for my local moving service. And he walked in their business and shook their hand and gave them a card and took their card and started following up with them and just built a little bit of a personal relationship with them. And what happened to your business when you did that? I mean, it exploded.
Yeah. Something like $36,000 increased revenue in the first month, and still reoccurring. And I haven't released this yet on YouTube, but I will eventually. But 6 weeks ago, I hired someone to do that for me full time, and he's better than I was at it. So
Is it going well?
Yeah, it works really well. I think in the last month, 12% of our jobs are directly from him marketing. In the first 6
That's
weeks.
amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that brings me to another thing that I'm extremely passionate about, is that sales is becoming a lost art. As more people sit behind their computers and learn web design and coding and all these skills that are extremely valuable, don't get me wrong, so few people know how to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, or walk in and shake their hands, or look them in the eyes, or even pick up the phone. It is so amazing how many people are afraid to pick up the phone on a sales call and just talk to somebody.
Right.
It's unbelievable. So if you can do those things and you actually understand business and you're starting small and local, I mean, the world is your oyster, because you can totally crush it. You can earn $100,000 the first year in business, and you can ditch your 9-to-5 job that you hate anyway. And you can 5 years from now be doing exactly what you want to be doing, earning more money than you've ever thought of in your life.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think right now there's a huge opportunity if you're good at two skills. Like, let's say you're good at coding and you used to, run a small landscaping company, work at landscaping. You can combine those two things and just blow everyone else out of the water, because you have two separate skills that don't seem like they correlate in any way, but they definitely do. And that could go for, a million different things. If you went to school to be a lawyer and you're looking at some service-based business, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of the competitors in all things law, and how to work with little fundamentals and stuff like that. So
it's really funny that you mentioned software development and coding, or software development and sales, as two things that if you were good at both those things, you could thrive. I mean, you look at the really successful service-based companies that do online businesses, web development, videography, like tech-based businesses. You look at all of them, and the ones that thrive are the people that can sell. The ones that are really good technically, and they can also have a conversation and be compelling and walk into an office and convince somebody to use their service, they can absolutely crush their competition, because nobody else wants to do that stuff either.
The same goes for art too. The best artist I know sells no art because she's afraid to charge enough for what she makes. And she makes like amazing artwork. She just won't sell it because she's afraid to charge anything for it. She'll give it away for free.
Yeah, that's when you're in a passionate, when you're passionate about something, and you're competing with other passionate people, it's really hard to rise to the top. and sales is the only way, in my opinion.
Yeah. So are there any like local service businesses that you think aren't a good opportunity right now?
Um, well, it depends. I don't really, I mean, people come to me all the time with like social media marketing and web development and videography and these businesses that are kind of sexy and people like them and they're fun and they're passion projects. And I don't ever tell people not to start a business, but if you have no skills and you're just starting and you're thinking about starting, that is not the place to start. Web development, social media marketing, videography, those are not the places to start because the competition, everybody wants to do that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, anything that is fun, in my opinion, Max. I don't unless it's already something that you have an advantage with your network or your sales skills. Unless you have an advantage, it's getting started in those places. I would never recommend because if it's fun to do, you're going to have a high participation, and if the participation
Right.
is high, the odds of success are going to be low. It's just like me trying to make it to the NBA. Everybody wants to go to the NBA, so the odds are more likely that I'm going to get struck by lightning.
Right. Yeah, true. I mean, I have an experience with that directly. I started a supplement company when I was like 16. And, this was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago before like supplements were even as big as they are now. And even then, I had the realization like, I'm never going to be able to compete with all this big money behind like a sexy kind of business just because it's like cool and, promoted everywhere. So I ended up just kind of not putting any effort into it because I didn't want to like compete, in something like that. I'd rather have like a
Exactly.
trash company or something not glamorous. So I
Yep. So I
definitely
have I have a list. I have a list on my website. It's sweatystartup.com, and then one is titled Businesses I Love, and one is titled Businesses I Hate. And the businesses I hate are the passion projects, are the things that I think are really tough, and the businesses I love, I think, are the ones that are underserved because they're not necessarily fun, and there can be huge opportunities in your small town to do this stuff.
Mhm. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to be like a videographer, is so passionate about it, but doesn't feel like there's the business behind it, but wants to do it eventually?
You got to sell. You got to sell. If you're afraid to talk to people and you're afraid to cold call and you're afraid to walk into offices and you're not going to do that stuff, you're never going to thrive. I mean, the days of being able to post an awesome video on YouTube and Instagram and get a ton of followers and get a ton of traction, those days are done. It just doesn't happen. The only way to get traction and to make sales in those businesses is to sell. So do the door-to-door stuff, go meet businesses, put your name out there, cold call, send a ton of emails, and do that for 5 hours a day for a month, and you're going to have more business than you know what to do with. Everybody needs a video, but nobody's going to answer your spammy email about doing a video. But if they see the whites of your eyes and you walk in and shake their hand, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you could close 25% of the deals. If you walked into small businesses that
Yeah.
need video that make money and shook their hands, I wouldn't be surprised if you could have an excellent close rate.
Yeah, especially now, everyone wants content. Everyone, every real estate agent, every small business owner wants video content.
Another thing I'll say about that is that it's a race to the bottom too. Like so
Yeah,
many people undervalue the price that they charge. Like you got to understand that the people who want the $100 video and the people who want the $500 video are not your customers. So you got to pick and choose your work. And it's just like the cleaning company with the person that you're talking to about starting that. I mean, what kind of customers do you want? Do you want the people who want the $100 video and are going to come back and ask you for 4 or 5 edits and spend 20 hours of your time and you're going to work for $5 an hour? Or do you want the business that's ready to let you do what you need to do, let you take the reins on the video and provide them a 2-minute video and charge them $5,000 and you make $50 an hour, which, I mean, it's a choice because
right.
there's tons of people, anybody with an iPhone and iMovie on their computer can edit down a video. So the barriers to entry are low. And to get really good at editing video, I know that you can separate yourselves in some ways, but it's all about sales. It's all about having the guts to charge a high price and not negotiate and walk away if they're not willing to pay what you think your time is worth.
Wow. So would you say that the future in like marketing advertising is small scope, like individual type marketing?
I do. I think that's where the opportunity is at right now. I think Google clicks are more expensive than ever. Social media marketing is less effective than ever. I mean, I read an article about social media advertising spend. And if you look at the trends over the past 10 years on Facebook, the users have gone up, obviously, but say they have one line, the users, and the social media spend is this. The
Right.
social media spend on advertisements, so ads are more expensive than ever. Conversion rates are lower. There's always some big business with big money somewhere willing to pay more for a click than you are, period. So if you can go sell locally and put up bandit signs and walk in businesses and put up flyers. I mean, I grew my service business with chalk advertisements on the ground and flyers passed around campus because we knew exactly where our customers were. They were students. They were in the dorms. We knew where they walked to class. So we could put free billboards right on the sidewalk. And it worked amazing. I mean, our competitors were spending $5 a click on Google AdWords. We just made the decision that that's not going to be our competitive advantage when it comes to marketing. And I think the same goes for so many businesses, especially if you can find one where you're competing on a local level. If you're competing with people from Pakistan and California, Silicon Valley venture capital, it's really, really hard to do that stuff. But if you can see the whites of your customers' eyes, it's a huge opportunity to step out from behind your computer and actually go do that.
Right. I've even seen some bigger businesses have success with that because I know not so much recently, but a year or two ago, you'd see like in college type areas, Lyft would have flyers up on every single post with little, tear-offs to get like a free Lyft ride. And I just thought, wow, you do not see huge businesses doing that kind of stuff. And it must have worked because I've seen it in tons of different cities across the country.
Yeah, I think Lyft made a decision that we are going to target a certain type of customer at first. Like we could have a 10-year goal to target everybody, and that's what they've done. But to get traction initially, we need to target a super small, super specific person. So many businesses say, "Oh, I'm designing this product for mothers between the ages of 20 and 35. I'm targeting this product to, men from 18 to 35." Instead of saying, "Okay, I'm going to get traction by targeting a student at this school that's this age that goes to these bars, like that's going to be my ideal target, and that's the customer that I'm going to focus on." You know what I mean? So it's the long tail, and to get started, I mean, look at the way Facebook even started. I hate talking about Facebook because it's the entrepreneurship story that we've all heard so many times. But even they started by just focusing on students at Harvard only.
Mm-hmm.
Like they started so small. So if you have a business idea and you're selling a t-shirt or you're selling something that, maybe you don't like what you're hearing from me right now, but focus on one type of person who likes one type of thing so that you can go find those people. If you're launching an apparel brand, which is on the businesses I hate, find one person that likes one type of thing that you can go to a music festival and see that person, or you can go to a specific meetup and see that person, or you can go in a specific Reddit community and interact with that exact person. You're much more likely to succeed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you just see more and more of that. There's just so many people out there. There's a million customers for basically everything. So I definitely agree with that. So if we could, let's try to like brainstorm. What's a local service business that we can pretend to start, and then how we would market it cheaply?
Okay, let's do one that's very low entry, deck staining. Like let's say you want to stain decks. All you need is a paintbrush and some work pants and a little spray gun to treat the deck before you spray it with some anti-mold. But even that can wait. Like all you need is really a paintbrush, and you don't have to buy the stain until you get your first job.
Right. So my first initial thought here with how to market that would be, I would go on Google Maps and look which houses have faded decks in the back, and then I'd go and knock on their door. If they don't answer, I'd send them a letter. If they didn't answer that, I'd send them another letter, because your clientele's got to not be very many. If that person has a faded deck in the back, and that's like, you could target it down so small.
Yep. I would look at Google Earth, and I would rewind 5 years, and I would look at what houses have been built, between 7 and 4 years ago. And I would go 7 years ago, and then I'd go 5 years ago, and I'd say, oh, this is a new house that was built at that time. It has a deck, probably got stained when it was built. These things need stained every 5 years. I'm going to go knock on that door. And I'd go all the way around town and knocking on that door. Maybe there's 50 or 60 houses within 5 miles of you. Knock on every single one. Send a handwritten letter to every single one. Another one that I think would be awesome is deck builders, carpenters. They build decks, but they do not want to stain decks. So if you could find a way to get in front of those people and do one thing for them, like send them a customer or help them build a website or do something that you can like get a little bit of rapport with that one person. They would easily, hands down, say, oh, I just built you a deck. I do not want to come back a month from now and get dirty with a paintbrush to stain this thing. Right. Call Max. Here's his number. Call him. You got to call him.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing something for them. That's really smart. Yeah, I wonder.
Anybody who can send you business, do some things for them. Like, what could you do to help out a self-storage facility that is going to recommend your moving services. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good question.
One thing that one big pain that self-storage facilities have is the locks. People have lock issues, and self-storage facilities just want to collect rent. They do not want to cut locks. They do not want to replace locks. They don't want to deal with customers that it needs some oil in the locks or something like that. So if I was starting a local moving company, maybe you go in and say, I want to help you outsource this to a locksmith and just pass the customers on to the locksmith for $50. I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box, but
yeah. Or another thing you could do if you really wanted to go all in there is be like, hey, here's a deal. If we can be your dedicated movers, we will personally send someone out and pay for it to cut all locks back on your property. And if you did that at 100 properties, you have someone full time, but you also have 100 properties sending you every single client. Probably pay for itself.
Absolutely. Yep. I think you can get so creative. And I think it all starts with when this person needs this service, who do they ask? Mm-hmm. Who are they going to ask? Like if somebody needs carpet shampooing and they're just moving into a house, who are they going to ask? They're probably going to ask their realtor.
Right.
If they're just moving to a town, they don't know anybody in town, they just got placed there for work, they're either going to ask their placement manager in HR, the person who got them the job in town, or they're going to ask their realtor, or they're going to ask maybe even their moving company. So if I was shampooing carpets, I would find the HR manager who's bringing in employees at the biggest company in town. And I would go meet with them and say, hey, look, we want to make it easier for your employees that you're placing in Athens or wherever. Here's my card. We do all kinds of cleaning. We can help them make it super stress-free. Then I would go to the movers and I would say, hey, you guys are constantly moving into places. Everybody who you're moving needs cleaning on both places. Here's my card. Recommend me. And I'd go to the realtors in town, the big ones, and I'd say, oh, here's some awesome new business cards that I got printed for you and a business card holder that you can put on your desk. Just a gift. And here's my number. I'm a cleaning company. I do really great work. Please refer me to your clients. Just something creative like that.
Right. And I think the key there is to go to more than one, because a lot of times I think people will try one, they'll go to one HR manager and be like, that doesn't work. When in reality, you need to go to 20 before you can figure out how to even approach the situation.
It's a numbers game. People get so emotionally offended when they lose sales or when they get rejected. And if you can get over that, if you can just realize it doesn't matter if I walk in somewhere and I try to sell and they say, get the heck off. Like people are going to be jerks to you. People are going to say, get the heck out of my business. I hate you, whatever. Right. You can just smile and say, all right, well, that guy's not a customer that I want anyway, right. and move on. Then go to 20 and you're going to have some progress.
Right. What I like to tell myself, even when someone turns me away, is like, okay, that guy turned me away, but he definitely still appreciates the hustle.
Yeah, you're the ultimate salesman. You're the ultimate. How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you pump yourself up to walk into a business or, get up in the morning knowing you're going to have to drive around town, getting yourself in uncomfortable situations all day?
I think it's kind of about compartmentalizing, how you feel. Because it's definitely so far out of my comfort zone. Like I'm more on the introverted side of the spectrum for sure. So it's like, it's really daunting. Whenever I tell people that, they don't believe it, but it's gotten a little bit better by necessity. But it's about, like, I just try not to think about anything when I'm walking in. And I walk in, I'm like, what's up? And then by the time you do a few hundred, like, I would go like downtown Phoenix, and sometimes I'd walk into an office and there'd be no one there. And I'm like, well, I'm here, so I'm going to find someone to talk to. So I'd like walk to the back offices and just find someone to talk to. Like, I spent 10 minutes getting here. I'm talking to someone,
Yep. It's all about the hustle, man. And I think if people are willing to hustle, if people are willing to do that stuff, they can make a great life for themselves. They can quit their job. I think your first goal should just be to replace your income so that you don't have to drive somewhere and work for somebody else. It sucks so bad to have to do that. So if you can quit your job, then you have 24 hours a day, every single day, all year long to grow your business and do things to get better. Man, you're going to crush it if you do things right.
And then once you quit your job too, to look at it not like, okay, I used to work 8 hours and then 4 hours in the evening. And now I just have to work 8 hours on my startup. Now you work 12 hours on your startup and you're going to grow by leaps and bounds. So, it's not deleting something for leisure time. It's focusing all that attention on one thing that's going to grow. So that's something I see as well.
People waste so much time. I mean, if people thought about time the same way that they thought about money, it would be a game changer. I mean, if I walked in your house, Max, and took $20 out of your wallet and walked out, you'd be upset. You'd be pissed at me. You'd probably call the police or shoot me with a gun, whatever. I don't know. But if I walk, like say your hourly wage right now at your business, depending on how much you make, is $100 or $200 an hour.
Mhm.
And I walked up and I talked about things that you didn't care about. And I was just not a good conversationalist. And I wasted 20 minutes of your time on your front porch talking to you about things that you have no interest in. I mean, people don't care at all about that. They walk in and say, oh, that guy was kind of loser, but whatever. It's the
Right.
same thing, right? Money and time. I mean, it's the same thing. So if people would only treat their time like they treat their money, and take it one step further. I mean, people watch an average of 5 hours of TV per day, Americans. 5 hours of TV every single day. You put minimum wage on that, that's 20 grand a year. You know
Right.
what I mean? You put minimum wage value. If they got paid $11 an hour or $10 an hour to watch TV, and they did it for 5 hours a day, that's $50 a day times $365. Yeah, that's $15,000 a year they spend watching TV.
And then,
I'm all for leisure and doing things you enjoy, but that's ridiculous when people are living paycheck to paycheck and not able to quit a job they hate.
yeah, and I think even with leisure, the importance there is to do leisure activities with a purpose. Yeah, it's fine to watch a movie or TV show, but only watch one that you're really enjoying, not one that you're staring at blindly on your phone half the time. Like with some amazing movie with great reviews, yeah, sit down and enjoy it and, soak it in. But yeah, like you said, don't just sit there for 5 hours watching Storage Wars.
Yeah, and yeah, and people spend an average of, I think they scroll an average of like 300 yards a day on their phone. Like if you measure the distance that they scroll, and you look at Facebook as an entertainment value or Twitter as an entertainment value, it's pretty crappy media. Pretty crappy media that you are consuming over and over again that is getting you nowhere in life. Nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, an easy test of that is, what did you see on Facebook yesterday? You don't even know. You
Yeah.
were on for 2 hours and you don't even know what you thought yesterday.
And the negativity on social media is horrible, man. People are so negative and pessimistic and gossip and complaining and blaming other people. I try to cut all of that out of my life. I try to cut negative people out of my life. I try to cut negativity out of my life because it does not make me better. And there's no positive that comes from blaming other people for my current situation.
Right? Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Yep. Yep. I think one of the skills, if there's a skill aside from sales that I think is so critical to learn at an early age, it's definitely resourcefulness. Actually trying to solve a problem in a creative way. So many people, and it's something that we're not trained as humans, as business people to do. I mean, in school, if you have a problem, you're going to ask the teacher, you're going to flip back and you're going to look it up in the book, or you're going to Google it or whatever it is. So when you start a business, it's stark the difference between people who are resourceful and can solve problems in a creative way and people that just get totally crippled because they can't figure out one little thing. I mean, people reach out to me every day asking questions about business, and it's unbelievable the amount of questions that I get that these people have spent no time at all of their own thinking about how to solve in a creative way.
Wasting your time.
Yeah, they're wasting their own. They're shortchanging themselves. I mean,
Right.
there's no. I mean, we had a huge problem with our business that was going to stunt our growth, and Danny and I sat down. I mean, we had to go to Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington D.C. to operate our business. And commercial real estate was insane. It was 2013, 14 when these cities were just starting to totally boom, and it was going to be virtually impossible to find storage space. How are we going to find space in Boston to rent? And anybody else would have just said, okay, we can't go, because there's no answer. We asked tons of people. We called around to commercial real estate agents. None of them cared about us, whatever. We got resourceful. We got on Google Maps. We looked at tax records to find empty, old warehouse space that was commercial. We wrote letters to the owners. We bought bottles of bourbon for real estate agents to do us a favor. Like, we got super, super resourceful to solve the problem, and it saved us a ton of money over the years. And that's just one example of a problem that there was no clear answer. There was no answer. It was almost a crippling problem that you just had to get super creative about finding an answer to.
Yeah, and something to that, to the same corollary there, is the way that I like to think is to always invert the problem. Okay, there's a person out there who has the solution. What did they want in order to, if you always think of what does the customer want, what does this person want, you're gonna,
Yeah,
answer.
too many people walk around with their hand out and saying, help me, help me, help me, help me. And that's not the way that you get your problem solved. I mean, you're right. I mean, we looked at people and said, okay, who has a big real estate tax bill from the city of Boston and is earning no income on their commercial property? How can we find them and say, okay, hey, you guys we can help pay some of your taxes. I know we're not a long-term tenant. I know we're going to pay sub-market rent, but we're easy. We'll pay it all up front. We'll pay some of your taxes. Like, we looked at the problems that they were having. They had empty commercial real estate. They were paying a lot of taxes, and they did not want to chase people for money and get crappy tenants in there. Those three things. So we said, how can we solve those three things for them? We got to pay up front. We got to find people who don't have on-market. We had to find off-market commercial real estate. We had to get really creative. So you're absolutely right. Find a problem that your problem would solve.
Right. So were you able to find a month-to-month lease that way? Or how did you start?
Yeah, we were able to find sub-market rents, and it's getting harder and harder because now commercial real estate's even twice as expensive as it was in 2013. But we got super great, resourceful on Craigslist and with realtors and networking, and just walking in saying, hey, do you know anybody? We'd walk into any kind of fix-it-yourself store or like a hardware store or a moving company and say, hey, do you know anybody who has a warehouse space that's empty? My name's Nick. And I would just try to get them to say, okay, this guy's legit. He's not a fly-by-night. He's not shady.
Right.
I might know somebody. So yeah, it was really hard, but we were able to do it.
There you go, boots on the ground. And really, it probably was like a week or two of work that, of being creative and you solved the problem instead of dwelling on it for 3 weeks and getting nothing done.
Yep. Yeah, you could have just paid the $47,000 or $42,000 to get your office built out, but you said, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to get a little bit resourceful here and find a better solution.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're a true testament to resourcefulness and scaling things too. It's super impressive what you've been able to build in less than 10 years. So it's awesome.
Thank you. We'll have another talk about the logistics and specific how to operate these businesses, as we're both learning is extremely challenging as well. And there's a lot of best practices, a lot of frameworks, but it comes down to just trying to make the best decision that you can make at any given time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on and providing your wisdom, and I think this will be super valuable for the listeners.
Hey, Max, I appreciate everything you do, man. I appreciate you coming on my show. And if people want to find out more about me, I guess check out the Sweaty Startup podcast or visit sweatystartup.com. And we also have a Reddit forum where we all kind of communicate and collaborate, which is really cool. It's just r/Sweaty Startup on Reddit.
Yeah, so I recommend everyone check out his YouTube channel and his podcast. There's tons of valuable content there. I'll link it below. And check out the subreddit as well. If you guys ever have any questions about business, there's tons of people there who are actually answer really insightfully. And it's starting to be a really good community. I think there's like 16,000 members or something right now. And
16,000 members, and there's some pretty awesome business owners that float around in there adding some value. So it's pretty cool what's happening over there.
Yeah, so make sure you subscribe to Nick's YouTube channel and his podcast, and until next time.
Thanks for all your work, Max. I appreciate it.